We are going out on a little joyride today. Or is it really a joyride? Because this is Deathrace 2182, a 1 to 4 player game where you go into this crazy universe trying to fight the other players, but also this alien race trying to kill you, called the Zillians. You will use weapons, you will use mines, you will use different actions to make these little cars jump further away out on the board. There is a lot of things going on in this cool little game, and I am going to show you how this game works. I'm going to show you how the setup works and what the game is about and how you play it. So let's just take a look at this. This here is the setup of the game. In the center of the board we of course put the board that we will later build up roads on. Along the edges you can see that this is where we should put our cards. The different players will pick out a character that they would like to portray as. And as you can see, these cards have different colors. So this here would be the green player. And this one here would be the yellow player. So now each player needs to take their little car in a corresponding color to their character, but also a little die and a little health clip. This clip is moved back and forward as you lose or gain health. At the start of the game it should be placed at 20. Each player then also gets 2 power cards. Every player gets a magic monkey wrench. But they should also get 1 other power card at random. We place our character card under where it says character card, and the power cards under the power cards. Here we will put our weapon drops. The remaining power cards are put next to the board, and we need to shuffle them of course. And next here we got the weapon drop cards. We got landmines, gunfire, fire drops and smoke bombs. Next to them we got the corresponding tokens. Now the player takes turns selecting 1 token of their choice. And we do this until all players have 4 tokens each. Now we need to look through the road tiles. Looking like this. These are the tiles that we will use to build up our map with. First we need to remove the final boss map and put it to the side for now. Next we need to find the start roll tile and put that out on the board. The remaining tiles are shuffled and are put next to the board face down. All players now put out their little car on the start tile. Then we need to take out the 2-sided boss health track card. On one side we have the 3 mini bosses that you need to defeat before taking on the big boss. Meaning that the big boss is on the other side. Now we need to take 3 see-through cubes and put on their highest health. 7, 10 and 10. Then we also need to take the event cards, looking like this. These need to be shuffled real good and put next to the board. And lastly we have some D4 roll cards. These are used as a reference for when you roll your D4. The player that was most recently in a vehicle gets to go first. We are in the year 2182. Humans have created super cars. Not only are they super fast, they have weapons and they can also jump far away. Unfortunately, one of these cars jumped into a whirlwind-like portal in the sky and simply disappeared to discover aliens called the Zillians. And one of these were the mean monster boss called Twisted Fook. Now, they were in this portal for quite some time, but managed to get out, only to be captured again by this evil monster. Now, these players are stuck in this portal. And the only way for them to get out of this is to defeat the 3 mini bosses, Zillians, and then take on the big boss. And this is where you come into play, because you are one of these drivers driving around on this map trying to defeat the aliens. And also beat up your friends a little bit, because only one of you get to go through the portal and come back home. So this is really a balance between you beating the crap out of your friends, but keeping them alive long enough to help you beat the monster bosses. So this game is played with the players taking turns. Again, starting with the one that was in a vehicle lately, which is me, of course. I drive all the time. At the start of your turn, you need to roll your little die that you have here. And depending on which number you get, you need to draw that many roll tiles and place them out on the board. In this case, I got a number 4. This means that I should draw 4 tiles from the top of the draw pile. Now I need to place these tiles out in a way that just makes sense. Meaning in a way that the roads would actually connect in real life. So this connection here, for example, just would not make any sense, as you are cutting off the road. But like this would make more sense. When you have placed out the amount of tiles that you needed to place out according to your die roll, you get to move your car that amount of steps. In this case, 4. But we can see on these cards that there are a bunch of different symbols. Now what do they mean? Well, if we start by looking at the nitro here, for example, this one means that you will get an extra boost. Actually, you will get one more step during your movement. So in this case here, you would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps instead of just 4. And if you go into an undiscovered tile space at the end of your movement, you get to draw and place one more tile. But as we can see, there are some more symbols on the way. If you drive through one of the fire tiles, you take 2 HP damage, and you cannot put any weapon drops on these tiles. If you land on the hazard roll tile, stop and roll my D4 die. Then I need to consult the D4 cards to see if I was lucky or if I got hit. I got a number 3, and card number 3 says that I have survived, but I lose 1 HP. So this time I was quite lucky, but probably not next time, no. And since I managed to survive the hazard, I get to move to the other side of the hazard tile. If there is no roll tile after the hazard tile, you would simply move one step back instead. And players can end their turn before they enter a hazard roll tile, without attempting to go through it if they want to. And you cannot place any landmines on a hazard tile. And if you land on a tile that has the road sign 82 on it, you need to draw the top of the event cards. And now there are a bunch of different event cards in this game. Some of them will actually benefit you and others just will not. As the game goes on, we will sooner or later also encounter a boss. When you move into a boss tile, you need to defeat that boss before you can get off the tile again. So be sure that you can actually defeat them either alone or with someone teaming up with you along the way. We will take a look at a boss battle in a little bit. So that was one part of a player's turn. You roll the little die, you place out the tiles, and then you go that amount of movements if you want to on the board. And if you pass any of these tiles, you need to do the effect. Either get burned or put hazards, draw the little event cards, or fight a boss. But remember that you can go forward and you can also go backwards. So you don't need to put yourself through whatever lies ahead. You can actually go back again. But during your turn, you can do some more things than just drive around on the board, because you also have these power cards, and these power cards will get you, well, some powers during your turn, and you can play one card during your turn. Depending on what the card says, different things will of course happen. This can deal damage to other players, they can deal damage to the bosses, but they can also heal you. And your character actually have some special abilities that is stated on the character card. These abilities might make your character immune to some attacks or give them special abilities during your turn. So be sure to keep an eye on your character cards so you do not forget to use them. You can also do drive-bys. When one player drives by another player's tile and do not stop on the same tile, a drive-by will happen. And now you need to roll your d4. And depending on which result you get, different things will happen to this poor victim. If you roll a 4, you actually miss completely, and 0 damage is dealt to the victim. But if you roll a 3, you will do 3 damage. If you roll a 2, 2 damage is dealt, and if you get 1, 1 damage is dealt. But what happens if you actually land on the same tile? Well, then you can deal damage to the other player, again by rolling the d4. And the damage pattern is the same. If you get 4, you deal 0. If you get 3, you deal 3, and so on. In a Battle It Out sequence, you cannot use any weapon drops or power cards. You simply roll the die and hopefully make some damage. And you cannot battle it out on hazard tiles, because that's just stupid. You're just hurting yourself. Get out of there. Before we look at a boss battle, let's take a look at what these weapon drops does. The landmines here can be placed on any tile, and they stay in effect until they are detonated by any player. Players that drive over the landmine need to roll their d4 to determine their damage. But if you land on the mine, you instantly take 3 HP damage. And if you drop it on the tile that you're actually standing on, and you start your turn on that mine, well, you are a bit stupid and you need to roll the d4 to see what damage you get. The gunfire weapon drop will let you shoot any player from up to 2 road tiles away. If a player is 2 tiles away, they will get 1 damage. But if they're only 1 tile away, like in this case here, they will get 2 HP damage. The fire can only be placed on any tiles that you have just driven over, and it deals 2 HP damage to any player that drives through it. This effect will last for 1 turn only, and will disappear at the start of your next turn. Lastly, we got the smoke bombs. These can be played to stop the boss from getting their first strike, because in a boss battle, the boss always gets to hit first. The smoke bombs also prevents gunfire, drive-bys, and battle it out effects. But this effect, just like the fire, only lasts for 1 turn, and at the beginning of your next turn, it goes away. Besides everything I have just shown you, a player can do one more thing during their turn, and that is to change one of the power cards that they have on their hand for one that is either faced up in the discard pile or one that is face down in the draw deck. To do this, you simply take the card that you just don't want anymore and then you discard that card. And then you take up a new one. These cards are quite hard to get a hold of, so exchanging these cards every now and then might be a good idea so you're not stuck with something you're not gonna use. The only way to get these cards is really in a boss battle. If this deck ever runs out, we simply shuffle the discard deck and then we start over with a fresh deck. If or when your health reaches 0, you are out of the game and your car will explode. If there's any other player standing on the same tile as you as your car explodes, they will take 1 HP of damage. And that's what you can do during a turn, which is quite a lot actually. A player's turn goes quite quick, but you can do many things during your turn, so be sure to think a few tiles ahead before you start your turn. After we have played a bit, we might feel that we are ready to take on some bosses. And remember, you need to defeat the 3 mini-bosses before the big fella here, or woman, comes out on the board. Now, to defeat or to battle a boss, you need to enter the tile with a boss on them. And you can go in alone or you can go in together. But one player would of course need to go in first to start the battle. Like I said before,
the boss always strikes first. Unless you use one of these cute little smoke bombs here. But let's say that we don't.
When you enter the tile with one of the bosses, you cannot move off that tile before you have defeated that boss. And if you do not use any smoke bombs, the boss will get the first strike on you, making you lose 3 HP. Once they have done their attack, you now have 3 actions, and you can use them in any order you want to. You can roll your die to determine how much damage you will make on the boss. In this case here, 3. Then you can use any weapon drops that will help you defeat the boss. The gunfire here, for example, will give you instant 3 hits on the boss, causing them to lose 3 HP. You can also use any power cards that might help you against the boss. And if you do not have any cards that can help you, you can trade in one for a new one instead. Once you have done these 3 actions, you are done and cannot move off the tile if the boss is not defeated. But if another player is nearby, they can jump in and help you, starting the same sequence again, using any power drops that might help them to help you defeat the boss. If you manage to defeat the boss, you can take one of the used weapon drops. And this also applies to any player standing on the same tile while another player defeats the boss. Plus, you get to draw 1 power card for defeating the boss. But this does not apply to any other player standing next to the player actually defeating the boss.
Once we have defeated the 3 mini bosses, the big guy or girl comes into play. And now we need to defeat this boss. And this is almost our final obstacle to make it home. Because once we have defeated this boss, whoever is standing on that tile now becomes the new boss. Remember, because there's only one player that will make it out of this game alive.
When the big boss comes out, we flip this card over and now we can see the HP of the big boss. Again, we take a little cube and we put it on the max health of the boss. The first player on the final boss tile after the boss is dead will always get the first strike on the second player that enters the tile after the boss is dead. If there is any third or fourth players entering the tile, the player must choose which player to attack per turn. But the attacked player would always get first strike. And then the turn continues in counterclockwise. But if 3 or more players is on the final boss tile and fighting each other after the final boss has died, the players must choose which player to attack per turn. Weapon drops can be used against other players during the final boss battle, once the boss is destroyed. Guns, landmines or any fire drops all causes 3 HP of damage now. And you can use smoke bombs to prevent damage until the start of your next turn. And just as before, you can still use power cards or trade them in. If you manage to defeat any player, you still get a weapon drop for every player you defeat.
When we have one sole survivor left, we have a winner. And we have the player that managed to take that one spot on the chopper to make it out of this hell of a game alive.
And that, my friend, is how you play Escape Deathrace 2182 Micro. This game is so much fun. This is what I would like to call organized chaos, because you don't really know what's gonna happen. And you have some kind of organized plan that just end up in complete disaster sometimes. Because another player blows you up or puts a lane on fire, and then all of a sudden a big damn lizard comes down from the sky and tries to beat the crap out of you. This game is a lot of fun. Also the way that you try to keep the other players alive at the same time as you're trying to mess each other up. And it's just so much fun.
And the characters in this game are quite hilarious. On the backside of the character card, you actually have a whole bio about your character. What's the age of them, if it's known, what's their name, where did they come from, and so on. This is a cool little thing to sit down and read before you get into the game. The artwork in this game is quite simple and easy made, but it should be in a game like this, because this is all about fast, messy, fun game night with your friends. There shouldn't be a long, heavy setup. There shouldn't be a long, complicated story. There shouldn't be too many details on the cards and the little tiles here. This should be fast, it should be evil, it should be funny, and you should laugh at each other as you mess up your other plans. I mean, this is exactly what it should be. It's simple, easy, fast, little bundle of joy. And there you have it, my friend. That is how you play Escape Deathrace 2182 Micro. This is a crazy fun game. It's all about death and destruction, and you making it out as the standalone winner. This game actually exists as a much smaller version in a really mint game size. I have made a video on this one as well, and if you have watched that video, well, you already know how to play this game because the rules are the same. I should probably have told you that at the start of this video, but never mind, we had fun, right? If you want to know more about this game, check out the links down in the description, and it will take you straight to the Kickstarter, straight to the Board Game Geek site, the website, whatever you want to know. If you like my channel, if you like what I do here, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, or just leave a comment. It gives me a smile on my lips every time. But most important, my friend, until next week, please do not forget to keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace out.